What is the sad truth about smart people? There's different levels of smartness and different smart people go about life in different ways. But, I think universally young prodigies are typically isolated. They are at a level far above children their age, but are far younger than the people that match intellectually with, lacking life experience. Either way, a young prodigy can't connect with either group. Expectations, never learning to study until it is too late, being forced to learn outside of your age-related interests, being terrified of failure, not being able to balance ambition and said fear of failure, once again, expectations. My mother put so much pressure on me at such a young age, I couldn't handle it. I have done well for myself as an adult, but will never be able to live up to those expectations set by her and others. I should probably go back to therapy. I think truly smart people, those genuinely rare geniuses, are so smart that the rest of us can't even comprehend it. It must be a very strange feeling going through life knowing that most people just can't see and understand the things you do. The sad truth is that being smart isn't even a particularly good indicator in living a happy and fulfilling life. You could be extremely smart and intellectually capable, but if you got beat up as a kid, your parents died, you developed some personality disorder, etc., you're way worse off than someone well-adjusted with a below-average intelligence. It's sad to see dumb people making dumb decisions in front of your eyes, and not be able to do anything but only give them advice. Most helpful advice are a waste. Most dumb people argue a lot instead of reflecting as well using critical thinking. So you will never win an argument against a dumb or biased person. So just walk away and tell them they are right. We waste them. Our entirely social structure from schools to mortgages are designed for people with very average intellectually abilities. Smart people have to deal with the daily stress of living in a system that isn't built for them, and lose a lot of their productivity, and take a real hit to their mental health as a result. If we stopped subjecting them to standardized systems designed against them, just imagine how much further we would have advanced as a species. Intelligence doesn't correlate with happiness. My daughter was a prodigy who was consistently off the charts academically for her age group. She was way ahead of the rest of her school pretty much everything including music and sports, and ended up as valedictorian of her gifted high school, and with full-ride academic scholarships. But she has always struggled with depression, loneliness, and anxiety. She's in college now, and things a bit better, but it's an ongoing struggle to balance intelligence with the need for socialization. They're not as smart as they think they are, or as smart as people tell them they are. Source: sailed through school, and had lots of people tell me how smart I was all the time. Now no, I just have the ability to think critically, and put a lot of effort into learning about things, and have average IQ. Being capable doesn't necessarily correlate with being intelligent. Nor vice versa. However, the saddest truth for most of you is that high performance in early years has relatively little indication to your potential intelligence or success identified as an adult. There are just too many factors and variances in metrics and models of education and accomplishment. Most people will not nurture them, they will hide their eyes and ears to save their own self-confidence, or try to destroy them to feel better about themselves, or try to exploit them without allowing them to ever reach their full potential and leave their control. The first thing a smart person must learn is which life strategy they choose, to fight the system and value their autonomy and morality, often at the cost of the danger of an isolated journey in emotional blood, or to adapt to the best offer of a place in society they can find, safe, constrained slightly above mediocrity, but far from what they may have been. Neither has a particularly high chance of becoming all they could have been. Both have their own risks and of losing hope or vigor in life. You can be isolated and surrounded by people. Both ways basically come down to luck. Sometimes greatness is nurtured, but it is too often intentionally snuffed out. The above-average intelligence is usually paid for with a major shortcoming somewhere else. Their bookshelves are full. When they realize most adults are stupid. A person with an IQ over 150 has as much trouble communicating as a person with an IQ under 70. Neither can really relate to people with IQs between 90 and 120. The main difference is that the genius is aware of the isolation and lack of belonging, and thus has more trouble with depression. The smarter you are, the sadder you are. Smart people are no match for ruthless people. Dating someone who's not. You get lazy. I've gone through my life never having to do much studying for exams and tests, but I never do more than what's expected. During high school, I don't try to look for summer programs at colleges, no personal projects to show, not even any clubs except for a couple that I dabbled in. They overthink things, which leads them to doubt themselves, which leads to lack of confidence, which leads to failure to live up to potential, which leads to depression because they know they could be doing better. The majority of really intelligent are not understood by others and often suffer from depression and a complex combination of mental illnesses. They're more depressed because they know what the world is really like. It's hard for them to find happiness because they know too much. They reproduce less than dumb people. The sweet spot is being above average, but not genius, and honestly being motivated and driven is probably way more important for success than simply being intelligent. I think it can be very lonely. Even for people who are smart, but by no means a genius. There just aren't that many people able to see the world the same way and form meaningful relationships as a result. Many are neurodivergent or and have difficulty socializing. They aren't smart for no reason. They spend so much time in their own thoughts that they have learned how to master them. The side effect of that is them lacking social skills, which means that they mostly cannot share their thoughts with other people. They don't use Reddit. Lots of drug addictions. The fact that people are responding with "we." For women, specifically, it can make you less desirable to date. Finding a partner is insanely difficult, especially for smart women. They are usually interested in guys smarter than them. Also, guys are usually interested in women that are below their intelligence. Most hyper-intelligent people are depressed to some extent. The intelligence itself is isolating, as most normal people can't understand the thought process of a genius. There are also a lot of challenges due to the fact that the system really doesn't have any support system for a genius. School is built to put students on a very specific learning path, and truly intelligent people find the process to be a bore and stop trying. Due to that, they fail to learn normal things like how to study and deal with challenge. Without proper outside support from parents or mentors to properly challenge them, a lot of them burn out early due to the negatives and the pressure of their potential. A lot of them also fall to drugs like alcohol and marijuana, because they enjoy the feeling of being dumbed down. They're mentally unstable now. I know the answer because I am very smart. In all seriousness, it's pretty rare for humans to possess a level of intelligence that's truly and wholly above their peers. Even in the case of geniuses, it's not that simple. For example, Einstein wasn't great at math because he had a big brain. He was great at math because he dedicated his life to it. The anxiety, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the low self-esteem, the loneliness, that's all I have for now. They usually lack social skills. The more you know, the more you don't know. Ignorance is bliss. Knowing too much and having an expanded awareness of the world is depressing. I'm in no way a genius or a high potential guy, but I'm a really quick thinker and love to learn about loads of stuff, so I have a pretty solid general culture and a good understanding of the world around us. I find myself appalled by the level of conversation you can have with the average Joe. I just don't know what to talk about except small talks, because they either can't follow, don't know what I'm talking about, or convinced that we're ruled by an alien lizard master race. Sometimes it's quite awkward being around people. Existential depression. Universally, our psyches are still tribe-based, so being alone with so many thoughts about the point of daily actions leads to the feeling of what's the purpose of living in a philosophically existential manner. Very common for existential depression to evolve to chronic major depression. They're badly outnumbered. Generally speaking, they're not as confident as bona fide idiots because smart people know their limitations and know that they don't know what they don't know. So they don't project as much confidence as bona fide morons who think they know it all. So it's more difficult for truly smart people to get into positions of leadership, because the sad truth is that confidence and bravado are more often rewarded than true intelligence. Most of the smartest people I know have crippling imposter syndrome and rarely consider themselves as such. Some of the most unintelligent or socially inept people I know consistently regard themselves as the smartest people in the room when they almost never are. The narcissism. They can be right, they can have all the evidence to demonstrate they're right, they can synthesize that evidence to showcase and highlight that they're right, and someone will still come along and say, "But I feel like you're wrong." If they shout that loud enough, folks will ignore the person with the right information. Their demons are just as smart. That if you're not smart in a traditional way, like academically gifted / book smart, it can often be overlooked. Some people really aren't into academia, or only excel at very specific niche things, and can get mistaken. There are really gifted tradespeople that can be experts in their field, or people who just have this understanding of how objects work, but don't get that recognition as readily. you know that you don't really know anything. Having to deal with dumb people. The more that you know, the more you realize you don't know. Also overthinking. They are slowly going extinct. Idiocracy was right. But seriously, the birth rates differ significantly between smart and dumb people, and I'm a bit worried about where this path may take us. Bullied due to vocabulary. The internal dialogue of the well-read tends to reveal itself verbally. One person says hall and the other says corridor. Guess who bullies who? Book smarts does not equal street smarts or common sense. One of the smartest people I know, on paper, is an absolute idiot when it comes to doing almost anything other than his extremely technical aerospace job. This dude didn't check his mail for over a month and almost got evicted for not paying rent just because he didn't feel like it. He makes over $100K a year. This is only the tip of the iceberg by the pay. I frequently refer to him as the stupidest smart person I know. I wish I was making this up. They are more likely to develop depression. Society has gradually moved towards a state where the goal is to achieve mediocrity rather than celebrate those who strive to be overachievers. Being smart often means being isolated unless you are willing to put on a front that makes you appear dumbed down. Smart people suffer from depression and anxiety at higher rates, and the genes for bipolar disorder and schizophrenia seem to be connected to the genes for intelligence somehow. The most depressing thing for me was realizing that the fact that I could connect intellectually with adults at age 6 meant that I would only very rarely be able to connect with people from my tweens upwards. Sad. On the inside. That companies don't hire bookworms and nerds, even if you have the grades to show for it. I can guarantee that everybody commenting is full of crap. That you aren't one of them. Smart is nothing without hard work. Just like athletic or musical ability, you have to do the work, so it's all well and good to be smart. But a lot of smart people do not succeed because they won't work. My husband is smart and incredibly hardworking. He has a master's that he got working nights while being a department manager for Walmart. He achieved a 4.0 in computers. When he went to job fairs afterwards, the companies were literally chasing him down the hall trying to hire him. Since then, he provides a very comfortable life for us by staying up on the latest technology, still learning new skills. He is very smart, and he put in the work. That they are not as successful in real life as they were in school. Being smart is nice, but it will not make you happy. An inability to hide in scenarios where others' intellect doesn't match your own. They're extra critical of themselves. Dumb people think they're smart. Smart people think they're dumb. Depression. The people I know who are really smart can make connections and see things that the rest of us miss. And every one of them has been pretty depressed about the state of the world. At least from my experience, I never learned how to ask for help. Whenever I did ask, I was told I was smart and could do it myself. Just because you're smart doesn't mean you're motivated. Cries in wasted potential. A high IQ does not denote wisdom. They're not always smart. I remember a story of a lady who had a higher IQ than Albert Einstein, yet died young because she got locked out of her house and decided to go and through her chimney, got stuck and starved. In this world, you must be oh so smart or oh so pleasant. Well, 4 years I was smart. I recommend pleasant. Higher depression rates. Intelligence often comes with profound sadness. My smartest friend often says that he would trade 20 IQ points for a bit more blissful ignorance and some happiness. Depression and anxiety and profound loneliness. That being smart has little to nothing to do with being successful. I've noticed a lot of smart people lack common sense. They usually have very little common sense for basic things that should be obvious. Several lack situational awareness. We're great at Jeopardy but terrible at life. They don't reproduce nearly enough to outweigh the ignorant. Most of the time they can predict how things are going to be, even if it's not going their way. Hurts to know you're crashing and not be able to do anything. Deep down, we are quite insecure. Knowledge is power, but is only a means to sharpen your awareness of how ignorant you really are. The more you know, the more you realize you don't. You're still going to underperform against attractive people, who are going to get higher paying jobs easier, and with less responsibility. Ignorance is bliss. Smart people have a better understanding of all the things they do not know. As a result, they don't always see themselves as smart at all. The more you learn, the more aware you are of those topics you'll never be an expert on. As a percentage, it feels like you learned one topic, but learned of the existence of 5 other topics in the process. As a percentage, it feels like you know less now. Like running down a hallway that keeps getting longer as you run, sometimes you just have to stop and look back to see how far you've come. Mental illness. Depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, etc. That many suffer from mental illness. I come from a long line of people with very high IQs, 135 plus, who suffer from unmedicated bipolar disorder. It destroys lives. It destroys relationships. And it's hereditary. I am, somehow, less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. Stephen Jay Gould. Being smart is just a feature, not a quality or any kind of moral high ground, and it should be addressed as such, as smart kids do not grow like other kids and develop troubles because they are smart. You're smart when it comes to education, i.e. good at exams because you can memorize things, and then you get to the real world and realize how utterly useless that skill is. In my experience, the more book smart someone has, the less street smarts they have. I don't just mean being savvy, I mean can't figure out really simple day-to-day things. Being good with people can be infinitely more useful than being necessarily smart. Ignorance is bliss is a very true statement. Dumb people, within the same economic situations as the smart people, live rather simple and happy lives in comparison to people who know things. Doubting everything about yourself. Just because someone is incredibly intelligent, that does not mean they are wise. Constant contemplation of our impending mortality. My brain has a lot of RAM, so to speak. Constantly needs something to work on, or it starts turning on me. I also have a semi-photographic memory and good recall even 10 plus years ago. The anxiety that comes with it is immense. My brain feels the need to play chess and plan several steps ahead, so it isn't surprised by anything. I think a lot of my mental energy is devoted towards not being surprised on a daily basis. They'll never be free of stupid people. We're all Asian. Probably that some folks are not as smart as they think they are. Everyone is stupid. Even me. People just think they're better. They're cooler than you. They're often sad. Ignorance is bliss. Being smarter doesn't make you happier. Sometimes the opposite is true. I am smart. Not on a genius level. Just smart. My sad truth is that I left school at 15. I couldn't comprehend how this was going to be the rest of my life. Kindergarten-school-college-work-death. I fell into a deep depression for a few years while just learning whatever interested me. I now am in the possession of extremely niche knowledge about things most people don't care about and are not willing to pay money for. I taught myself to code and am a SWE now. The sad truth about it is, while I usually enjoy what I do, I can't for the life of me stop asking one question. Why? I can't let it go. Always why? In a circle that's never ending. Feels like my mind is in a bugged loop without a break condition. I feel like there is a threshold for people either being not smart enough to ask why or being smart enough to inherently know that questioning everything doesn't get you anywhere. I'm in the middle of those thresholds, stuck forever. Burning out on trying to understand and never going to get the answers I'm looking for and not being able to accept not knowing. I just feel empty. The more I push for truth and knowledge, the faster I burn out. If I stop to push, I fear that I might just surrender altogether and might as well not exist. Being smart doesn't equate to being successful. They know of all the things they don't know. Whereas ignorance is bliss, a higher than average intelligence is depressing. You will coast through school with high praise until you hit your wall, and have not developed any of the skills required to really learn and study, and it will blindside you. The depression. The defeated feeling you get when others choose illogical paths. Stupid people usually think they know more than smart people, and they're often quite vocal about it. Most will never have the opportunities to reach their full potential and make the world a better place. Usually will feel like outcasts and suffer with mental health issues. Usually depressed. They often seek out shortcuts because work smarter, not harder. More think, more sadness. That traditional schooling absolutely crushes the soul out of them. Frustration with the way the world is. I'm no genius, but some days I just have to disconnect from everything, so I don't get burnt out by how dumb people can be. We have the hardest time relaying information to those not as smart. We have IQ ratings to measure the amount of information we hold. The truth is simply complex to us, and too complex to be simple for them. Problem with social relationships with other people. Loneliness. Not in the sense of human interactions or relationships, but depth of understanding. Imposter syndrome. Also, recognizing that you have imposter syndrome and still not being able to do a damn thing about it. A lot of gifted students who seem to be faster than most in early childhood learning, usually don't learn organizational skills for a long time because their raw intelligence can carry them for a long time. This is why a lot of gifted students fall off later in life when organization and coordination tends to be more important than individual intelligence. TW for suicide. The expectations are insane. In high school I felt like I would have to kill myself. If I got below a B in school BC, it would be such a disappointment to my parents. This was while attending my local community college at age 16. I finished my bachelor's at age 19 and still feel like a failure most of the time, especially since I'm taking some time off from school. There is a certain loneliness sometimes, feeling unable to truly connect to people on a meaningful level, because to a person of average or below average intelligence, a genius is always going to come off as weird or eccentric. Being told you're so smart from an early age does more harm than good, especially if done to diminish academic achievements. It instills the idea that intelligence alone is enough to do well and ignores the hard work needed. Probably the most depressed. We just understand more about how the world works, and that's not always a good thing. Overthinking, self-criticism, self-doubt. They're insecure about their intellect. Just like wealthy people often can't feel wealthy enough, or beautiful people fear losing their looks. Watch this as water. They can be really arrogant and think they know better than everyone else. They can't be fooled into thinking the world is not a cold and lonely place. Being the golden child in grade school sets you up for failure by heightening your expectations of life while equipping you with absolutely none of the skills to actually make those expectations come to bear. That being smart means you are very good at retaining knowledge. This also means you can retain memories better than most. This also means you can remember more wrongs and slights done to you throughout your life, and those that you have done to others. This will keep you up at night and very quickly leads to depression. Everyone's smart at something, nobody's smart at everything. No matter how smart someone thinks they are, they can always learn more. A lot of people stop themselves from growing because they apply themselves in the slightest. They're often sadder or straight up depressed. Understanding the world's atrocities and daily horrors is unbearable. Brainless, ignorant people are just way happier and careless when it comes to this aspect. Ignorance is bliss. They have to deal with idiots every day, fulfilling other expectations, which gets hardwired for the rest of their life. No one listens to them. Knowing too much, wishing you weren't smart enough to know certain things. We're more likely to have fewer friends, a pessimistic worldview, and suffer from depression. The public American school system does not support and give more offers to them. They often have to deal with the slower way of learning that can frustrate them. Intellect does little towards happiness. In fact, for many it can seem to work against it.